How are we all doing, guys? And welcome to another fitness video, which I haven't done in a long time. I'm very sorry about that, but there's going to be so much more content being released. It's been difficult with moving and settling into the new place. My goal for this channel is to help as many people and gamers get into the best shape possible, live a better quality of life, and mentally be in a good place. Sometimes when I'm sitting down at my computer and all I'm doing is gaming and editing, my mind goes crazy. I actually get a little bit frustrated. The body is meant to be moved, and that is why it's so important to train, to exercise. You can still be a gamer like me and live a more positive life. I'm gonna run through why every diet works, but what is the best diet for you? And if you didn't know, I've been in the game for over 10 years. I've competed naturally at some of the best levels. I've won pro shows. I've learned so much from doing so many different diets. We're gonna run through some of the common diets that people like to do. And then the problem is that when they do them for 30 days or 2 months or 3 months, they go back to their old habits. They go back to their normal eating. And then all of a sudden, they've put all the weight back on, and sometimes even more. If you don't see yourself doing the same diet in a year's time, best that you don't do that diet. You might have heard of the bro diet. The bro diet is someone who typically doesn't track any of their calories, but just eats clean. Their breakfast could be something like oatmeal or egg whites or eggs and chicken, rice, broccoli, chicken, rice, broccoli, chicken, rice, broccoli. Typically, the bro diet is where you just eat clean. You have like a good 4, 5, maybe sometimes 6 meals, depending on what the goal is. And there's some pros and cons with this one. If you're having the bro diet, you're typically going to be eating whole foods, chicken, broccoli, you got your veg and rice. You know, you might have potato, you might have steaks, and else is And the thing about this diet is that, yes, you're eating clean foods. You might feel pretty good on this diet for a while because you've eliminated all the shit that you've been eating. The problem is it will get very, very repetitive. So repetitive that you become sick of the food, and then all of a sudden you get to the weekend, or when you do like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're just binging out on things that you like. Tend to not recommend this diet. We've got the keto diet. I'll call it the keto diet / low carb diet. Now, I've done this in the past very early on, and a lot of people will swear by, you listen, it's the carbs that make me fat because I've lost like 5 pounds in a week. Let's get one thing straight. When someone's eating shit, they're not eating just carbs. So for instance, they're not just eating potato. They're not just eating jam. They're not just eating sugar. They don't crave those things on their own. When you think about the things that you crave, it's not just carbs and sugar. It's donuts, chocolate, cakes. And this is a combination of carbs and fat. And fat is very dense in calories. So that is one thing to understand with carbohydrates. And also, when you are eating carbohydrates, it will hold on to a certain amount of water with those carbohydrates, because carbs will bind with water. And that's why sometimes if you have loads of pasta, or if you have cheese on it, that's fat. But if you have something that's quite heavy in carbs, you're going to feel quite bloated, dependent on what your current diet is like. So when someone cuts out carbs, within that first week, yes, you might feel a lot better because you've eliminated shit and you've eliminated carbs. You're going to lose a hell of a lot of water weight, which is going to make you feel a lot better at first. But the reason why I don't recommend the low carb diet / keto, which we're going to come to, every bit of food that I love has carbs, and I like to live my life, guys. I don't know about you, but when you go out to eat for dinner at a restaurant, it's very hard to avoid carbohydrates. I like to have pasta. I like to have pizza from time to time. I like oats. I like cereal. I like fruit. Carbohydrates has fiber in it. So when I did this, when I first started, first of all, I felt very, very skinny because carbohydrates actually makes you a little bit fuller. But then also I was craving things on the weekend and I was eating shit. So I was like getting to the weekend, eating a shitload of Five Guys, pizza, and I was putting on a lot of weight, and then I'd go again. And it just caused me to have a lot of binge problems. That's the thing with the low carb diet. When I say keto diet, keto, you need a certain amount of carbs and below. I believe it's around 50 grams of carbs and less. But the thing about going into ketosis is that people think that you're using fat as energy. It takes around a week if you're doing it properly. And if you're having too much protein, trying to do the keto diet, your body will then convert some of that protein into glycogen. So you're not really in ketosis. The problem with the high fat diet and keto diet is that, first of all, it's unsustainable. You're going to be not eating enough fiber, which is going to affect you going toilet. I used to get a lot of constipation when I was on this diet. And second of all, my training, because I was doing weight training, heavy weight training, you need glycogen if you're doing strength training. If you're jogging and you're doing low intensity stuff, it's a bit different, but when you're trying to build muscle and you're trying to lift as heavy as possible with good form, you need to be having glycogen and carbohydrates. So that is why I'm not a fan of the keto diet. Now, you've got other diets that you might have tried, like Weight Watchers. You might have heard of that. My mom's been doing that for years, or she was doing that for years. The thing about this diet is that it beats around the bush of what is scientifically proven. Now, it's all about calories in, calories out, but you have to focus on the amount of protein you have. You have to focus on the amount of carbs and fats. Protein and carbs, there's 4 calories in a gram, and with fats, there's 9 calories. So it's a lot more denser in terms of calories. So when people are having salads with 2 tablespoons of oil, each tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. That's an extra 240 calories just from oil, which you can avoid. Now, I'm not saying oil is bad for you. I'm saying that when you're taking into consideration body composition and you want to lose body fat, you need to be aware of the fats that you're having. I prefer to having a high carb diet when I'm losing body fat because fats doesn't fill you up. I'd rather have a lot of potato than 2 tablespoons of oil. It gives yourself points. I'm not exactly sure what foods are what points. Basically, they'll have points that you have 20 points in a day, and then chicken will be a certain amount of points, and then an apple will be a certain amount of points. It tries to get you to be accountable to an extent, but then some of the foods that they choose to have high points, you're thinking, wow, that's quite low calorie, but then you've classed it as high points. Just doesn't tell you the truth. You're beating around the bush. You might as well track your calories. You got things like Herbalife, shake diet. Oh my gosh, I've tried that in the past. Oh my gosh, one of the worst diets. Now, what they say in like stuff like Herbalife is that they say replace 2 meals a day with 2 shakes a day, and then have 1 meal and then 2 snacks of like 100 to 200 calories. Those shakes, if I'm correct, are around 200 calories. Yes, you will lose weight, but my gosh, you will lose a lot of muscle mass as well, because if you're having 2 shakes a day, which is say 250 calories, that's 500 calories. And if you have a 500 calorie meal, that's 1,000 calories. If you have 1 to 2 snacks of 200, that's about 1,400 calories. Now, for a woman who's very small, that might be okay. You're avoiding all the micronutrients you need from food, the whole foods, the fiber. You're just having some shakes that are just not good for you. You might as well have your own food. Plus, you might as well make your own shake. Plus, they're very expensive. My gosh, back in the day, they were trying to sell these shakes as like the next best thing. My gosh, they are a waste of money. When they go back to normal eating, they don't know how to stay accountable with the food that they were having. They're like, man, I can't do this anymore. And then they end up putting on the weight. Intermittent fasting. There's pros and cons to intermittent fasting. Let's go through the benefits. Now, if someone has a binge problem, say in the evening, most people who have a binge problem, they always say, and I have new clients coming in, they tell me at 8 o'clock, I start eating everything. So what that does is that eliminates a window of eating. So if someone says, I cannot eat between 8 p.m. and 9 a.m., what has that done? That has basically eliminated that binging, which means they're going to save a hell of a lot of calories from the food that they were binging on. Therefore, they're going to lose weight. That can work, yes, but I've had clients come in who want to build muscle and they intermittent fast. And I'm like, first of all, you need a certain amount of protein, around 1 gram per pound of body weight, sometimes a bit more to keep you full. Personally, as well, I like to have a bit more protein than usual to keep me full. And what that does is you're going to struggle to get the amount of protein. So if I need 180 grams of protein, if you're only having 2 meals a day, you divide 180 by 2, and that is a lot of protein. Protein is the most fulfilling macronutrient. So therefore, intermittent fasting is going to make it very hard to get the amount of calories and protein in for a start. Also, if you are weight training, I need carbohydrates. It is ideal for sports performance that you eat every 4 to 6 hours. Now, this is in terms of performance, not fat loss, because some people will say, listen, if I have 2 meals a day and I stay within a calorie deficit, I'll lose fat. Yes, you will. But if you're looking at trying to get stronger, you need structure to your food. That's why I like to eat every 4 to 6 hours, having my pre-workout meal, having my post-workout meal. Intermittent fasting is not great if you want to build strength and build muscle. You are going to feel up and down. Not that blood sugar levels matter too much unless you're diabetic, but you're going to feel very, very high when you're eating loads, and then you try and train in the morning on an empty stomach, you might feel very, very low, which this client had a particular problem with. It's good because it helps people eliminate windows of eating, like I just said. But the problem is it doesn't take into consideration sports performance, and also how long can you keep that up. Why do all of these diets work, which you probably might understand now, is that it puts you in a calorie deficit if your goal is fat loss. It eliminates a certain amount of calories one way or another, unless you're doing the bro diet, because sometimes I know people that do the bro diet and then they're not losing because they're still having too many calories, even though it's healthy. But the relationship between all of these diets is that it somehow puts you in a calorie deficit. I've got into low body fats by counting my macronutrients, counting my calories with MyFitnessPal. I am a great believer in flexible dieting. Now, the reason why flexible dieting works is because it's understanding that you need to be in a certain amount of calories to lose body fat and build muscle. It's a lot more flexible in terms of what you eat and how many meals you eat per day. There's so many pros to flexible dieting. You get to choose the foods that you want. You get to choose how many meals you want. You can track and have different foods in your diet. And for me, it's worked for the last 6-7 years because it is eliminate any binging. Back in the day when I would eliminate a food group, over time I'll want it. It would make me want it. And then what does that do? It will cause me to binge. So the good thing about flexible dieting is that if I go out on the weekend, I'm going to have a burger. All I know is that it's going to be a high calorie meal. Therefore, I leave a certain amount of calories to account for that burger. So it's not off limits, but I'm understanding that I'm going to eat a lot of calories in a single sitting. There are some cons to flexible dieting if you do not do it properly. Some new clients back in the day would basically be eating shit and tracking their calories. That's not a good idea because what that does is you might be eating 1,500 calories of, a couple of donuts a day, a croissant, a coffee. There is no nutritional value in that food. Think of it like a car. If you put shit petrol in a Lamborghini and you just don't take care of it, over time it's going to deteriorate. You still need to make sure you're eating healthy. You still want to make sure you're getting your vegetables. You still want to make sure you want to get some fruit and you want to stay hydrated, obviously. Don't just do flexible diet and you just eat shit. You still need to follow a structured food plan. And that's why flexible diet is probably the best diet for you. Depending on where you're at, it might not work straight away. So with what I do with new clients is that you need to follow a structured food plan first before you start to really track your calories. So what I do with new clients, yes, they want to do flexible diet, but I'm like, okay, here's the calories you're meant to do. Here are your macros. This is what you're gonna eat for the next 2 to 3 months. And based off the progress, we are then gonna move over to the next phase. So I call it like phase 1, where they followed the food plan I've given into them. They give me the foods they want. I put it into a food plan. They follow it. Phase 2, I will get them to track their calories 2 days a week. So they're introducing flexible dieting. So they've got the progress, they've got the results. Now they're continuing to get the results, but understand that they can be a bit more flexible. And then phase 3 will be, I give you the macros, you follow them. You can be a little bit more flexible. They're a lot more educated now on how it works. And then they can have socials, they can go out and they can have some alcohol and they understand what they need to do in order to keep getting progress, but also not sacrificing their social life. If this video has helped, drop a like. Let me know what you think of the new fitness channel, Love Gaming Fitness, because I am a gamer and my goal is to help you gamers. There'll be much more content coming soon, so let me know what you want to see in the comments. Any questions you have, I will try to answer them. And now I'm going to go upstairs now and play some PS5.